There's a specific moment when you realize that the people who raised you see you as entertainment, as a punchline, as a person they can mock publicly to get laughs from strangers. And everyone laughs because it's a party, because it's funny, because you're supposed to take a joke. Except it's not a joke. It's cruelty disguised as humor. My name is David Chen. I am 37 years old, and 3 years ago, I stood in a hotel ballroom with 200 people watching my parents celebrate their 40th wedding anniversary. My father stood at the microphone, champagne glass in hand, giving his speech, thanking everyone for coming, talking about his beautiful marriage, his wonderful family. And then he got to me. He said, "And of course, David, our son who finally figured out what he wanted to be when he grows up, at 34 years old." Everyone laughed. My mother leaned into the microphone. We kept asking him when he was going to get a real job. Turns out he needed 3 decades to decide. More laughter. My father continued, "But we love him anyway, even if he's not quite where we thought he'd be by now." The room laughed again. Uncomfortable laughter from some, genuine laughter from others. I stood in the back of that ballroom in a suit I'd saved 3 months to buy, holding a glass of cheap champagne I couldn't afford, and felt something inside me snap. Not break, snap, like a cable under too much tension that finally just gives. I walked out of that ballroom. I drove home. I blocked their numbers. I blocked my entire family. I changed my phone number. I moved apartments. I cut them off completely. That was 3 years ago. They haven't seen me since. They don't know where I live. They don't know what I do. They don't know that I'm successful now. They don't know anything. And I have no intention of ever letting them know. This is the story of how my parents spent 34 years telling me I wasn't good enough, and how I finally stopped caring. Before I tell you what happened after I walked out of that ballroom, before I tell you how I built a life they'll never see, before I tell you about the message they sent last year that I never answered, I need something from you. If this story is already hitting close to home, if you've ever been publicly humiliated by people who were supposed to love you, if you've ever been the punchline in your own family, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel if you want real stories about family scapegoats who walked away and never looked back, who built lives their families will never see, who chose themselves and never regretted it. And drop a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from, your city, your country. Tell me if you were the family joke. Tell me if you ever walked away. I read every single comment. We're survivors here. We're the ones who left, and we're thriving. Now, let me take you back to the beginning, because to understand why that speech destroyed me, you need to understand the 34 years that led up to it. I need to tell you about my brother first, because none of this makes sense without understanding him. My brother's name is Michael. He's 3 years older than me, and from the moment he was born, he was everything my parents wanted in a son. Smart, athletic, charming, ambitious. The kid who got straight A's without trying, who made varsity basketball, who got into Stanford on a full academic scholarship, who graduated summa cum laude and went straight to medical school. Michael became a neurosurgeon. He married a lawyer. They have 2 perfect children. They live in a 5-bedroom house in Palo Alto. They are the American dream in human form. And then there's me. I wasn't dumb. I got good grades, B's mostly, some A's in subjects I liked, but I wasn't Michael. I wasn't athletic. I tried sports. I was terrible at all of them. I was the kid who got picked last in gym class, who spent more time on the bench than on the court. I wasn't ambitious in the way my parents valued. I liked reading, writing, art. Things my parents saw as hobbies, not careers. I went to a state school, UC Davis, not Stanford. I got a degree in English, not pre-med, not business. English. My parents made their disappointment clear from the beginning. When I was 8 years old and Michael was 11, we both had parent-teacher conferences on the same night. Different teachers, different classrooms. My teacher told my parents I was doing well. Reading above grade level, creative writing was exceptional. Needed to focus more on math. My father said, "Thank you," and we left. In the car, he said, "David, you need to try harder in math. Michael was already doing algebra at your age." Michael wasn't doing algebra at 8, but the point was made. Michael was the standard, I was falling short. When I was 13, I wrote a short story that won a school-wide competition. I was so proud. I brought the certificate home. My mother looked at it and said, "That's nice, honey. Michael won the regional science fair this year. Did we tell you?" When I was 16, I got my first girlfriend, Sarah. Sweet girl. We dated for 6 months. I was happy. My mother said, "Just don't get too serious. You need to focus on school." Michael didn't date until college. When I was 18, I got into UC Davis. I was excited. It was a good school. I'd gotten a partial scholarship. My father said, "It's not Stanford, but I suppose it'll do." Michael had gotten into Stanford, of course. In college, I studied English. I loved it. I loved literature. I loved analyzing texts. I loved writing essays. I was good at it. My parents asked constantly, "What are you going to do with an English degree? How will you make money?" I said, "I'll teach or write or work in publishing." She said, "Those aren't real careers. Michael is going to be a doctor. He'll save lives. What will you do?" I graduated with honors. My parents came to the graduation. They took one photo. They spent the entire lunch afterwards talking about Michael's upcoming medical school graduation. After college, I struggled. I'll admit that. I worked various jobs, barista, bookstore clerk, administrative assistant, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, trying to find my path. My parents saw this as confirmation that I'd made the wrong choices. My father said at a family dinner, "David, you're 25 years old. Michael was already in medical school at 25. When are you going to get serious about your life?" I said, "I am serious. I'm figuring things out." He said, "Michael didn't need to figure things out. He knew what he wanted and he went for it." Everything was Michael. Every conversation, every comparison, every moment of my life was measured against my brother's success. As I got older, the comparisons didn't stop. They intensified. When I was 28, I was working as a technical writer for a software company. It was a good job, $65,000 a year, benefits, stable. I was proud of myself. At Thanksgiving dinner, my aunt asked what I was doing for work. Before I could answer, my mother said, "David writes instruction manuals for computers." She said it with such disdain. It was the most boring, meaningless job in the world. My aunt said, "Oh, that's nice." My mother immediately pivoted. "Michael just published a research paper. It's going to be in a major medical journal." When I was 30, I got engaged to Rachel, a wonderful woman, a teacher, kind, funny, smart. We'd been together for 2 years. I called my parents to tell them. My mother said, "That's wonderful, sweetheart. When's the wedding?" I said, "We're thinking next fall." She said, "Well, let us know the date. Michael and Sophia are planning a trip to Europe next fall, so we'll need to coordinate." My engagement announcement became a scheduling issue for Michael's vacation. Rachel and I got married in a small ceremony. 50 people. Intimate, meaningful. My parents came. They gave a toast at the reception. My father said, We're so happy for David. He's found someone who accepts him as he is. That's all we can ask for. Accept him as he is? Like I was defective, like Rachel was doing me a favor. The marriage lasted 18 months. It wasn't Rachel's fault, or mine, really. We were just different people who'd rushed into something. The divorce was amicable. My parents, however, saw it as another failure. My mother said, "David, this is the second major thing you've given up on. First, your career, now your marriage." I said, "I didn't give up on my career. I have a career." She said, "You know what I mean. And now this. Michael and Sophia have been married for 6 years. They just celebrated with a trip to Bali." Everything came back to Michael. When I was 32, I decided to change careers. I'd been working in tech for 7 years. I was burned out. I wanted to do something creative. I started freelancing as a content strategist and copywriter. It was risky. Income was unpredictable at first, but I was passionate about it. My father said, "You're 32 years old. You can't just bounce around from job to job. You need stability." I said, "I'm pursuing something I care about." He said, "Michael knew what he cared about at 18, and he pursued it. That's the difference." At every family gathering, every holiday, every birthday party, the comparisons continued. And then came the jokes, the public mockery disguised as affection. At my 33rd birthday dinner, my father gave a toast to David, who's still figuring out what he wants to be when he grows up. We're proud of him anyway. Everyone laughed. I forced a smile. At Christmas, my mother told a story about how I'd changed majors twice in college. He couldn't make up his mind, not like Michael, who's always known exactly what he wanted. Everyone laughed. The jokes became a pattern. At every family gathering, every holiday, every birthday party, my parents found a way to make me the punchline, always with a smile, always followed by, "We love you anyway." As if their love came with a footnote, an asterisk, a qualifier. When my parents' 40th wedding anniversary approached, they decided to throw a big party. 200 guests, hotel ballroom, open bar, live band, the works. My mother called me 6 months in advance. She said, "David, we're having a big celebration. We want you there. And please dress appropriately. It's black tie." I said, "Of course I'll be there." She said, "And please don't bring a date unless it's someone serious. We don't want to have to explain another failed relationship to everyone." I wasn't dating anyone at the time, so that was a moot point, but the comment stung anyway. The party was on a Saturday in June at a nice hotel in downtown San Francisco, the kind of place with chandeliers and marble floors and staff in white gloves. I drove up from San Jose. I'd bought a suit specifically for this event. It cost $400, which was a lot for me at the time, but I wanted to look good. I wanted my parents to be proud of me. Still, after everything, I still wanted that. I arrived at the ballroom. 200 people, extended family, my parents' friends, colleagues, people I didn't know. Michael was there, of course, with Sophia and their 2 perfect children, 6 and 4 years old, dressed as if they'd stepped out of a catalog. I hugged Michael. "Hey, congrats on Mom and Dad." He said, "Yeah, it's a big milestone. How are you? Still doing the freelance thing?" I said, "Yeah, it's going well, actually. I'm making decent money." He said, "That's good, as long as you're happy." As long as you're happy, code for glad you're okay with mediocrity. The evening started with cocktails. I stood in the corner, nursing a drink I couldn't really afford from the overpriced bar, making small talk with relatives I hadn't seen in years. Everyone asked the same questions. David, what are you doing now? David, are you seeing anyone? David, when are you going to settle down? I gave the same vague answers. I'm freelancing, writing and content strategy. No, I'm single right now. I'm settled. I'm happy. Then dinner, seated at tables of 8. I was at a table with distant cousins and family friends. Michael and his family were at the head table with my parents. After dinner, the speeches began. First, my mother's sister, a sweet speech about my parents' love story. Then, my father's best friend, a funny speech about golf and retirement plans. Then, my parents themselves. My mother went first. She talked about meeting my father in college, about their early years, about building a life together. She talked about their children, our 2 boys, Michael, our oldest, who's made us so proud, a neurosurgeon, a father, everything we could have hoped for. Then she looked at me. I was standing near the back of the room. She said, "And David, our younger son, who's taken a more unconventional path, but we love him the same." Polite laughter. My father took the microphone next. He talked about marriage, about commitment, about the importance of hard work and dedication. Then he got to the children's section of his speech. He said, "Michael has been a blessing. Watching him succeed, watching him build a family, watching him become the man we always knew he could be. We couldn't be prouder." He paused, looked at me. He said, "And then there's David." The room went quiet, expectant. He said, "David has been on a journey, a long journey, trying to find himself, trying to figure out what he wants to be when he grows up." Some people chuckled. He continued, "At 34 years old, he's finally starting to get there, we think." More laughter. My mother leaned into the microphone. We kept asking him when he was going to get a real job. Turns out he needed 3 decades to decide. The room laughed, louder now. My father said, "But we love him anyway, even if he's not quite where we thought he'd be by now, even if he's not a doctor like his brother, even if he can't seem to stick with anything for more than a few years." He raised his glass. "But he's our son, and we accept him as he is. Here's to family. Here's to loving people even when they don't meet your expectations." The room applauded. People drank. The speech moved on. But I stood there, frozen. Every eye in that room had been on me. 200 people had just watched my father publicly declare me a disappointment, had watched my mother mock my career, had watched them toast to accepting me despite my failures. I felt heat rising in my face, felt my hands shaking. I put down my champagne glass. I walked to the coat check, got my jacket. I walked out of the ballroom, down the hall, out the front door of the hotel. I got in my car, and I drove home. And I made a decision that I've never regretted. I was done. I got home to my apartment at midnight. I sat on my couch in my $400 suit, and I thought about the past 34 years. Every comparison to Michael, every dismissal of my accomplishments, every joke at my expense, every time they'd made me feel small. And I realized something. I'd been waiting my entire life for them to see me, to value me, to be proud of me. But they never would. Because in their eyes, I would always be the disappointment, the son who wasn't Michael. I pulled out my phone. I blocked my mother's number. I blocked my father's number. I blocked Michael's number. I blocked my aunt, my uncle, and my cousins. Every family member is in my phone, blocked. Then I went further. I deleted my Facebook account, my Instagram, any social media where family could find me. Gone. I emailed my landlord the next morning. I said I needed to break my lease early. I'd pay the penalty. I just needed to move. 2 weeks later, I moved to a new apartment across town. New address. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I changed my phone number. New number. Only gave it to friends. No family. I effectively disappeared from my family's life. For the first week, I felt guilt. Crushing guilt. They're your parents. You can't just cut them off. That's cruel. But then I remembered the speech, the laughter, the 200 people who'd watched my parents mock me. And the guilt faded. Week 2, my old phone number started getting messages. I'd kept it active, but didn't use it, just checked it occasionally. From my mother, "David, why aren't you answering? Call me." From my father, "David, we need to talk. This is ridiculous." From Michael, "Dude, what's going on? Mom and Dad are worried." I didn't respond to any of them. Week 3, more messages. From my mother, "David, if this is about the speech, you're overreacting. It was just a joke. Call us." Just a joke. Week 4, they started showing up at my old apartment. My old neighbor texted me, "Your parents are here looking for you. Should I tell them where you moved?" I texted back, "No, don't tell them anything." Month 2, my mother left a voicemail. "David, we don't understand what we did wrong. We love you. Please call us. We're worried about you." They didn't understand what they did wrong. In month 3, Michael found my work email somehow. He sent me a message. "David, I don't know what's going on with you, but Mom and Dad are really upset. Whatever happened at the party, I'm sure we can work it out. They didn't mean to hurt you. Can we talk?" I didn't respond. In month 6, my mother sent a long email to my work address. "David, it's been 6 months. We don't know where you are or if you're okay. We miss you. If we said something that hurt you, we're sorry. But cutting us off like this is cruel. You're our parents. We deserve to know you're safe. Please contact us." I read that email 3 times. They were sorry if they said something that hurt me, not sorry for what they said, sorry if I was hurt, blaming my reaction, not their action. I deleted the email. For the first year after I cut them off, I focused entirely on my work and my mental health. I started therapy, twice a week at first, working through 34 years of feeling inadequate, of being compared, of being mocked. My therapist said something that changed everything. She said, "David, you've been trying to earn love from people who made their love conditional. That's not your failure, that's theirs." I'd never thought of it that way. I worked on my freelance business. I worked harder than I'd ever worked before, not to prove anything to my parents, but to prove something to myself. I built a client roster. I specialized in content strategy for tech companies. Turned out, all those years working in tech had given me an edge. I knew the industry, I knew the language, I knew what worked. Year 1, after the cutoff, I made $80,000, more than I'd ever made in my life. Year 2, I hit 6 figures, $120,000. I couldn't believe it. I hired a business coach, learned how to scale, learned how to say no to bad clients and yes to good ones, learned how to value my work. Year 3, I made $180,000. I incorporated my freelance work into an LLC, hired 2 contractors, built something real. I moved to a nicer apartment, 1 bedroom in a good neighborhood, hardwood floors, natural light, a place I was proud to live in. I started dating again, casually at first. Then I met Lauren, a marketing director. Smart, funny, kind. She didn't care that I wasn't a doctor. She didn't compare me to anyone. She just liked me for me. We've been together for a year now. It's the healthiest relationship I've ever had, because I'm the healthiest I've ever been. I made new friends. People who didn't know my family, people who judged me only on who I was now, not who I had been. I traveled, took trips I'd always wanted to take but couldn't afford. Japan, New Zealand, Iceland, saw the world on my own terms. I built a life I was proud of, a life that was mine, a life my parents would never see, because they didn't deserve to see it. Last year, on my 37th birthday, I got a letter.
Not an email, not a text, a physical letter mailed to my work address, the only address they had. It was from my mother, handwritten, 3 pages. It said, "Dear David, it's been 3 years. It's been 3 years since we've seen you. 3 years since we've heard your voice. 3 years of wondering if you're okay, if you're safe, if you're happy. We know you're angry with us. We don't fully understand why, but we know that something we did hurt you. The anniversary party, maybe? We've talked about that night many times. Your father and I have tried to remember what we said. We think maybe the speech upset you. If that's the case, we're sorry. We were trying to be funny, to be lighthearted. We didn't realize you would take it so seriously. We love you, David. We've always loved you. Yes, we've been hard on you sometimes. Yes, we've compared you to Michael. But that's what parents do. We push you to be better. We want you to succeed. Michael says he hasn't heard from you either. Your cousins don't know where you are. It's like you've vanished. We're getting older, David. Your father is 72 now. I'm 69. We don't know how much time we have left, and the thought of not seeing you again, not knowing if you're okay, it breaks our hearts. Please come home. Please let us fix this. Whatever we did, we're sorry. Love, Mom. I read that letter sitting at my desk at work. I read it 3 times, and I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no guilt, just nothing. Because the letter was everything I expected it to be. It was all about them, their feelings, their hurt. They need to see me. Not once did they acknowledge the pattern, the years of comparison, the public mockery, the 34 years of making me feel inadequate. They were sorry if the speech upset me, sorry that I took it so seriously. Not sorry for what they said, sorry that I reacted. I put the letter in my desk drawer. I didn't respond. A month later, another letter, shorter this time, my father's handwriting. David, I don't know why you're doing this. I don't know what we did that was so terrible that you'd cut off your entire family. We loved you. We raised you. We paid for your education. We supported you even when you made questionable choices. And this is how you repay us? By vanishing? By breaking your mother's heart? I thought you were more mature than this. I thought you'd grown past this kind of dramatic behavior. If you want to be a part of this family again, you need to apologize. You need to explain yourself. You can't just disappear and expect us to be okay with it. Dad. I read that letter once. I threw it away. Because there it was. The real them. Not the apologetic mother, but the father who thought I owed them an apology, who thought cutting off people who hurt you was dramatic behavior. I didn't respond to that letter either. It's been 3 years since I walked out of that ballroom. 3 years since I've seen my parents, or Michael, or any of my family. And I don't regret it. Not for a second. People ask me sometimes, don't you miss them? Don't you want to reconcile? The answer is no. Because the people I would miss don't exist. The loving, supportive parents I wished I had, they were never real. They were a fantasy I clung to for 34 years. The real parents I had spent my entire life comparing me to my brother, making me feel inadequate, mocking me in front of 200 people at a party. Those parents? I don't miss them. I miss the idea of what parents should be, but I don't miss the reality of what mine were. Some people will say I'm too harsh, that everyone deserves forgiveness, that family is family. But here's what I learned. You don't owe anyone your presence, not even family, especially not a family that spent decades making you feel worthless.
My parents had 34 years to be proud of me, to support me, to value me for who I was, instead of constantly comparing me to who they wanted me to be. They chose to mock me, so I chose myself. And I built a life they'll never see. A successful business, a healthy relationship, true friends, genuine happiness. I built everything they said I couldn't, everything they doubted, everything they mocked. And the most satisfying part? They'll never know. They don't know where I live, what I do, how much money I make, who I love, what I've accomplished. They used to be the audience for my life, the judges, the critics. Now, they're not even in the theater. My name is David Chen. I'm 37 years old. 3 years ago, my parents mocked me at their anniversary party in front of 200 people. It was the last time they saw me, and it will be the last time they ever do. If this story meant something to you, leave a comment. Tell me about walking away. Tell me about choosing yourself over family obligation. Subscribe for more stories about people who left and never looked back, who built lives their families will never see, who chose peace over performance. Thank you for watching, and remember, you don't owe anyone your presence just because you share DNA. Family is who builds you up, not tears you down. And if they tear you down, you have every right to walk away and never return. I did, and I've never been happier.